In this video, you are going to defy the limits of After Effects and do things that were thought were impossible in After Effects, especially when it comes to 3D. If you look at 3D software like Cinema 4D, they have specific 3D motion graphic features that basically allow you to make objects react to other objects. This is usually not possible in After Effects, but in this video we are going to explore how we can do this. And we are specifically going to do this in 3D. If we take a look at the actual promotional video in here, we can see that we have this little object, this orb, that wherever it is going, the layers are reacting to it. So in this case, in here they are changing the color and the direction and rotation, etc. And if we take a look at this scene, for instance, they are being attracted by it, and as it passes, they just rotate a little bit in here. So if we go to another scene now in here, we can see that we have this little orb that as it is passing in here, these objects are actually playing an animation. So as it passes, they play this animation where they jump up and rotate. Let's now see this actually in action in one of the scenes. So in here I have this effector, and when I move this around, you can see the floor, the objects on the floor reacting to it. And we can move this in the x-axis or wherever we like. So if I use the y-axis in here, you can see it affecting the other objects as well. So every object is reacting to it. So let's jump into a new composition over here, and let's just start building our scene step by step to achieve this effect. So I'm going to click on the rectangle button in here, and I'm going to do a quick shape layer. And let's open this up and make sure that it is of around size 150 or even 160. So let's say make it 160. And roundness, I'm going to give it a roundness of 20 so that it have some rounded edges. And I'm going to rename this to square. Great. So I'm going now to position this somewhere around here. And I'm going to duplicate this 9 times to have 9 squares. Actually 10 squares. So, and this last square, I'm going to position it right over here at the edge. Now let's pick all of these squares and click on the distribute horizontally button, and this will automatically distribute them for you just like that. Perfect. So now let's pick on all of these layers, Command D on your keyboard, and we can start placing them upwards just like this, just to create this grid of layers. So let's do the same thing in here. Let's pick all of these and Command D on your keyboard, and we're going to place these above just like that. Perfect. And let's do that one more time. Let's place them right over there, and now we can place them above the other layers just like that. Now we can pick everything and we can place them in the center in here to have everything organized like that. And like that, very quickly we have built this grid of squares. So the next step is to actually turn these to 3D. So let's pick all of these and turn them to 3D, just like that. Now let's introduce a camera. So layer, new, and camera. And something around these settings would be good. Maybe we can change the focal length to 30. And then we can simply use the orbit tool to orbit like that. Wonderful. Now we can pick this and orbit back like that. And then we can pan a little bit to arrange these in our scene like this. Of course, you can have more squares in here. You can build it however you like. So let's make this fit up to 100%. And now I'm going to introduce a new layer. Add new, and it would be a null object. Great. So we're going to change this to a 3D object as well. And as you can see, it is centered in our scene right over there. And let's rename this to Effector. It is very important to use this exact name, since this is important for what we are going to do later on. So we have our Effector ready in there. Let's continue building our scene. So I'm going to pick all of these squares. Make sure that your scene is set up to Advanced 3D, not Classic 3D, so Advanced 3D. And then we are going to, with them all selected, we are going to open them, go to Geometry Options, and we can go to bevel depth in here, and right above it there is bevel style. We're going to change that to convex, and we're going to go to extrusion depth, and we're going to extrude them to something that we like. So something around that. Now, if we look at these, we can see that we have these beautiful 3D shapes all layered out right over here. So let's hit U on our keyboard to close everything, and now we can introduce some lights. Layer, new, and light. From here, I want a point light, and I'm going to make it a little bit downward in here and somewhere around here. Let's open that, go to light options, and we're going to reduce its radius somewhere around that and increase its intensity like that. Great, so around 200% would be great, and we're going to link that, so parent to the effector. So now, if I position the effector above in here, and I move that effector, we can see all of those shapes being revealed, and of course we can move this down, up or down, however we like. The next step would be to have another point light, so Command D, and this one I don't want it to follow the effector, so let's hit none. And this one we can place it somewhere else in our scene, so somewhere around here maybe, and we can open that up, go to light options and increase its radius. So somewhere around here, and like this we are creating this very nice dynamic scene in here. And let's add another light, and we can place that around, let's see, around here. Great, so our scene is almost done. The only thing is I'm going to pick both of these lights and decrease their intensity to around 150%. Great, so we are almost there. Now, before we continue, I wanted to just humbly ask you if you could leave a like or a comment below. This would really help me to reach more people. I have some very exciting tutorials planned out, so also don't forget to subscribe if you would like to see more content like this. So now we're going to go to the effector, and we're going to start bringing in some effects over it, so that this effect can take place, where these little squares get attracted or change position depending on this little object in here. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in slider, and let's bring in a slider control. And this one, we're going to rename it to radius. Perfect. Now let's duplicate this. And this one, we're going to rename it to radius strength. Make sure that these names are exactly like this, since it is very important for the following steps. So the next one would be scale 2. So duplicate that once again, and we're going to rename that to scale 2. And as you can imagine, this would actually affect the scale. And just to keep things simple, in this example, we're going to use just scale and position. Let's now add another control. It is now 3D point control, and let's drag and drop it right over there, and this is going to be renamed to position XYZ. Finally, I would also like to add a color control, so let's add a color control, drag and drop it right over there, and this one we're going to rename it to color from. And let's duplicate this, Command D, and rename that to color 2. Perfect. So this is all set up, and now we can start playing a bit with this and bring in the magic. So as you can imagine, to do this, whenever we have an object that's going to relate to another object, we're going to use expressions. But don't worry, I'm going to make this quite simple for you. I have written all these expressions down right over here. You can simply copy and paste them, like me. And I have also placed them on my website, so you can go to my website, and every expression is separated. For instance, this one is for color, and you also have an explanation of what these do, if you would like to go through that. But if not, you can simply drag all of this and simply copy and paste. Copy this in your expression. Now, if you don't want anything to do with expressions, I have actually done a preset for you that you can simply apply to any layer, and it will do this whole process for you automatically. We will see how that works at a later stage. So let's start from here. I'm going to start from the position. I'm simply going to copy this, Command C on my keyboard, go to the square in here, hit P, open that up, and hit Alt on my keyboard while I click the stopwatch to open the expression field, and we're going to paste that right over there. Let's type in the next one, which would be, let's see, right over here, which would be scale. And I'm going to copy that. And let's go to S for scale and click on the stopwatch while holding Alt and paste that right over there. Great. Now let's go to the next one. And in this case, I have X rotation, Y rotation, and Z rotation. I haven't added a property to control those. In this case, I'm going to skip this part, but if you would like to add those, simply go to the Effector, add a 3D point control named rotation XYZ, and then you can simply copy and paste the X rotation, Y rotation, and Z rotation as well. But in this case, I'm going to copy the color. So let's go to color, Command C on my keyboard, copy that, and let's go to this square in here, and I'm going to open that, go to contents, we are going to go to the fill, let's open that by holding Alt on our keyboard and click on the stopwatch, and now we can paste it right over there. Perfect, so that's all the copy and pasting of expressions that we need to do. So now the next step is actually to populate all of these layers in here with the same expressions. So to do that, it's going to be fairly simple. Let's close this and open it once again. Let's make sure everything is closed in here, and we just have transform in this case. So I'm going to go to the position, and I'm going to go from here and click on copy expression only. And now I need to select all of the other squares, so just select them, hold Shift to select them all, and simply paste right over here. And now let's do the same for the scale. So copy expression only, and paste them on all the other layers. And now for the actual color. So let's go to contents in here, open that up, go to fill color, copy in here, Command C. And the thing about color is actually that we cannot just paste it in here on all of the layers automatically in here, but we would need to go in every layer in here. So let's go in the first layer from here. Let's open the contents and open the rectangle in here, go to fill. And we need to paste that over that property. So select color and paste it right over there. It would have been best in this case to actually apply the color expression before I start duplicating all of these squares, since that would save me a bit of time. So very quickly, I'm going to add these over all of these squares, and then we can resume. So I have added all of those color properties. Of course, in your case, it's best to add those before, when you have just one square, and then just duplicate. So now we can go to the Effector. As you can see, everything has vanished in here. So let's go to the Effector and start playing with the values right over here. And this is where the real magic would happen. So first we need to increase the radius. We need to increase the radius a little bit more. So I would like to increase it to somewhere around 500 maybe. And now you can see the magic happening. So when we hover over these layers, as you can see, the scale is set to 0, so they are scaling down to 0. And if we increase the radius strength, it will affect the whole radius the same way. So if we add that to around 400, for instance, you can see how that would work. And if we decrease that to 0, it would be more gradual. Most of the times I like to keep this at 0. Now let's change the scale to around 50, for instance. And let's go to position XYZ. So this is X, this is Y, and this is Z. And I'm going to keep the X at 0. I'm going to play with just the Z in this case. Great. So now, as you can see, the layers are being attracted up like that. And if we maybe scale to, let's say, 110, like that, they're actually now increasing in size. Great, so this looks already very nice. Of course, the color is off now, but we have this little control that we have done, which we can change, for instance, from color, we can change it to the blue that we had before, somewhere around that. Perfect. And now you can see the magic happening in here. Very, very nice. Great. And this one, we can give it any color. So we can make this nice purple, like our example. And you can see how that works. Great. So this is how this thing would work. And if this one is more far away, as you can see, it doesn't affect it. So this is really great. And the great thing is that we also have this little light in here. This is making the effect looking even better. And you can make them maybe the opposite direction. So let's make that to 100. And like this, you can see it affects it in the opposite direction. It repels them. So you can see the value that this gives to your projects. So let's bring that back to -100. And of course, if we had added the rotation control in here, we could even rotate them. So let's now go to the project window, and I'm going to add the orb. So in this case, I have this little 3D sphere orb in here that I have already done. If you are interested in knowing how you can create these kind of orbs, we can actually make a whole video on this. So let me know in the comment section below. So I'm going to simply drag and drop this inside of our composition in here. And one thing that we can do, we can turn this to a 3D layer, and we can then link it to the effector and play around with the position, etc. But since we are using expressions, we're going to use a nice, simple expression to help us with this. So I also have this typed in here. If you would like to see this, you can simply go to the link below and simply copy and paste this. And I'm going to place this over the position. So I'm going to leave this to a 2D layer, and I'll click on position, and we're going to paste this right over this. And this is basically taking the 3D value and changing it into a 2D position value. So like this orb, we don't have to worry about the lighting of the scene. This orb would stay basically the same, and it would still follow this effector. So wherever this goes, that orb goes. Now over this little 3D sphere in here, I'm going to add a glow effect from here, and we're going to increase the radius in here and somewhere around here, and that looks quite good. So I like how this looks. So this is basically how my scenes are set up. As you can see, you have the effector, and wherever it goes, the layers react to that. And you can, of course, keyframe this layer to make the animation. In this example, we're going to see how we can do the same thing, but using the preset. So let's now go to the effector. As you can see, it is empty. In this case, I only have 10 squares just to keep everything simple in here. I'm going to go to the effects and presets, and it's already installed in here for me under my user presets in MoGraph presets. So let's go to the MoGraph effector, and we can simply double click on that, and that would add this effect for us over the effector. And as you can see, the great thing about this is that everything is very organized in here. So you can see the effector and its properties, the radius and radius strength, and then you can see the affected properties. You also have a section for special properties, which we can apply to any property. So for instance, if you had a blur, you can apply the same expressions and techniques that we have done to that blur layer or any other property. We'll see in a few minutes how you can actually use the power of these special properties. So let's close that, and now let's go to all of these squares, and I would like to animate these. So to do that, I'm going to go to the MoGraph 3D layer, and these are in 3D, so I am adding the 3D layer. If you are using the 2D, you're going to add the 2D layer. So double click, and it will do everything automatically for us. If I move this around, you can see the effect is already happening in here. Of course, the scale in this case, let's reduce it a little bit in size, and we can play with the position as we have done before. So we can position that downward, for instance, and in this case, we have the rotation already applied as well. So we can rotate them like that, and however we like, just like that. Very nice. And now we can as you can see the power of this. In this case, the color is not applied automatically. That's a specific preset in here. So we can go to double click on U in here, go to the color field in here, and then simply go to MoGraph color property. If I pick the null in here, the effector, and move it over that layer, we can see it changing color as well. Of course, you can apply it to all the other layers as we have done before. So now let's see this scene and how we have made this, where the actual null layer, the effector, is triggering an animation in here. And as you can see, in this case, it is triggering an opposite animation. So these are going up and these are going down. So let's see how we can do that. I have already set up the objects in here just the same way as we have done before. And I already have the color expression written in there, so we don't have to worry about copying and pasting in there. So that is done already. So, and now in this case, we are going to use a plugin. So in this case, it is necessary to use this plugin since we are going to use one of those special properties that we can apply these expressions to. So now let's pick all of these layers, pick all of them, and go to our plugin in here called MegaMotion. And with this, we can add an animation. You have 2000 animations that you can choose from. And in this case, I would like to add a middle animation, and I can type it in here since I know what I would like to add. So that would be a bounce roll. So let's find this 3D loop bounce X roll. So as you can see a little preview in here of how that would look, and you can simply click on apply. Instead of applying it to all of the layers in here, I'm actually going to apply it to one single layer in this case. So let's apply it to this layer in here, 1, 2, 3, shape layer 1, 2, 3. So simply click on apply like that, and we can see the animation happening in here over that just one layer. Let's solo it, and if we play that, you can see that nice bouncing and rotation animation happening in here over this layer. Great. So now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the effect controls from here, and from here we have some options that we can play with. So the first one is loop duration. If we increase that to around 2, for instance, it would be slower. So it would take more time for this animation to happen. So I want this to be around 2 seconds. So this is good. Perfect. So that's the first step. Now I'm going to go over animation intensity in here. And if you remember, we have those special properties. I am going to add this special property to this animation intensity. So let's see what this animation intensity actually does. So if it is 0, no animation would actually happen. If it is set to 10%, the animation would happen normally in here. And if it is set to anything in between, so for instance 5, it would happen still, but it would be less strong, basically, the animation. So let's leave that back to 10. And now let's open this layer and find that effect. So I'm going to find animation intensity from here, and I'm simply going to go to MoGraph special property and simply double click on that to apply this expression to it. And now if I go to the effector in here, I can, property 1, I can change it from 0 to around 15, let's say 15, so that we'll make sure that it is 10 when this passes over it. So now, as you can see, no animation is happening at this part since the orb is not on it, but when it passes, it triggers the animation like that. And that is how we do that. Now, if I pick this effect that I have already done, so let's pick that up, copy it. Let's untick this so that we can see all of the other ones. And I would like to start with the first row in here, since this is animating upwards, as you can see. And then we can see how we can flip the animation actually. So let's pick all of these. That would be to somewhere around, let's see here. And I'm going to simply Command V on my keyboard to paste that. Great. So I've pasted that effect in here. And now you can see that happening right over here with the animation and rotation, etc. Now let's pick this once again, and this row, I would like it to animate the opposite direction, so I would like it to animate down. In here, in this effect, you can simply flip the animation. So flip y-axis, and bam, that simply flips the animation on the other side. You can even change the rotation of this whole thing. So if you would like to animate in this direction, you can change the angle like that. But let's in this case simply flip the y-axis. And now I'm going to copy this, Command C on my keyboard, and I am going to paste this over all of these layers in here. So let's select those, and let's go to around this. So let's paste them actually right over there, and then simply delete that layer if we need to. So that one, actually, it has done it automatically for us, so don't worry. So in this case now, as we paste those, you can see this effect happening in here. So let's preview it very quickly. And like that, you can see the animation happening wherever the orb is. And if we would like to test this, so let's see. I have the effector in here. Let's pick this up. And let's actually remove the keyframes in here. If I move this down, you can see now the animation is happening less on these. So if I place this, the animation is only happening at this part where the orb is, and since we move this down, it is happening less on these layers and more on these. And wherever we move this, the animation would happen. So this is a great trick to enable these motion graphics properties inside of After Effects. If you're interested in MegaMotion, you can simply check the link in the description, and you can even find a package with 20 free presets that you can try out. Of course, in the description you will also find a link for all the expressions that we have used, and also a link where you can get the presets that you can apply to any of the layers. That's it, guys. If you are interested in more tutorials, check out this tutorial where we actually see how we can bend 3D objects in After Effects.